So good evening. I'm Chris Whitaker. I'm the program manager for the Young Leaders in Cricket program. I've been doing it for a while, so it's always very enjoyable to meet parents for the first time and the young people, if they're accompanying you tonight, to talk about the program and its purpose in terms of what we and why we created the program. So the key words I'm going to talk about tonight are going to be these three: life skills, leadership skills, and how we put those together into a package in order to create a volunteering program. And the genesis of this was 16 years ago when myself and a couple of other people started it, was to try and encourage young people to understand what volunteering meant, the power of volunteering and the role it can play both in the club but also in the self-development of them as people and kind of going into adulthood, as it were. So starting with the leadership side of things, I like to use Virat Kohli as a great example. He's someone who, as you probably know, and still playing, wears his heart on his sleeve, but he's fully committed. Whenever he crosses the white line, use that old cliche, he's fully switched on in order to start playing to the best of his ability. And of course, he was a skipper for a long time of one of the biggest teams in the world, and certainly a team that comes under a lot of scrutiny. If we think England players come under scrutiny, then it's at a completely different level in India. But he led the side incredibly successfully. And he talks about these particular characteristics, all of which are actually embedded in the game of cricket. And I'll talk a little bit about that. He talked about how leadership isn't a dictatorship. And probably there are a few politicians out there in the world who might want to have a think about that. Where you stand and expect others to follow you, you have to show them why and how to do that. Being somebody who's prepared to listen and learn from others, that's always a good example of somebody who's a good leader, because they're always prepared to take on board new advice and then put that into their leadership development, and then how they go about leading other people. And I love the comment he said, leadership, it's a lifestyle. Sorry, and it's a daily commitment to the values that you hold, because those values are the ones that you're going to show are the ones that are the example to lead by. And his values were very much about commitment, about being all in, being committing himself to training, committing himself to playing, to doing everything that you'd expect of a good leader of a sports team. And within those leadership qualities are these life skills. And for a young person or somebody who's going to go into volunteering, but also just as part of your own self-development as you go into adulthood, things like resilience. And it's something that's increasingly becoming more and more important, given the kind of context of life as it is now, with lots of things being thrown at us. And in particular, the pandemic kind of showed up that when things like daily contact are taken away from us, resilience is a really important element of our personal kind of capacity to deal with things. So there's a module that we do around resilience, but it's in the context of, obviously, of cricket. It's also about building relationships, because to lead any team, and it doesn't matter whether you're skipping the sixth team or the first team, or skipping England, you got to build relationships with your players, because without that, a team just falls apart. So, and you've seen with all the best skippers, that's exactly what they do. They have really good relationships with people on different levels because everybody's an individual. And then, of course, there's teamwork and making sure that when you're contributing, you're contributing as a team. And, when they talk about there's the bowlers bowling for each other or batters batting for each other, that's about teamwork. That's about the greater whole, as it were, as in the team, which is more important than you as an individual. Then some of these are the kind of characteristics for volunteering. If you're asked to volunteer, then you need to be committed. You need to take on that self-management role, as in, taking on the responsibility to do the volunteering. And it's about, one of the key things that cricket is very embedded in, which is fairness and integrity. And uniquely, our game has the laws of, or the spirit of cricket, which is actually written into the laws of the game. Other sports don't have that. So, within the first law of the game is the spirit of cricket. It's about playing with integrity and playing with fairness. So play hard, but play fair, as the saying goes. And when we put the program together, we were very keen that we reflected cricket's core values. And those are, in some ways, they're undefinable because often core values come from the individual. But as a sport, we were keen that we reflected what the cricket establishment, if you like, felt were the core values of cricket. And then, fortunately, last year, I think it was, the ECB published what they felt the core values of cricket were, after doing a lot of research and talking to a lot of people. And I was very pleased to see we fitted very nicely into them. We certainly do run on respect, and we certainly absolutely embrace enjoyment, because that's the only way you're going to deliver a program that people are going to get engaged with. It's also a sense of building belonging, which I'll explain in terms of the volunteer community and why that's important. And then it's about making progress, and the progress, like I said, is about is on the self-development side of things. So the purpose of the program really was aimed at that sort of 14 to 17-year-olds category. And when I say 14, those would be rising 13-year-olds through to sort of 17-year-olds are going on 18. And it was about giving them the skills and the competency to be able to volunteer effectively. And volunteering effectively is kind of where you make a difference. And that doesn't, that's going to be something that's a wider life skill. So we say it's, not just at your club, but at your school or in your community, you can play a role as a leader. And we want to give you those skills to be able to, offer yourself up to volunteer and feel that you've got the competencies to be able to do that. And the way we wanted to do that was to, as I say, take the characteristics of the game and kind of embed them into a specialized program. So we wanted to use, very much those life skills that I referred to, all of which are within cricket in some way, shape, or form. And I'll explain kind of why when I talk about the modules themselves. The other area we were really keen to try and broaden was the gender and diversity base of volunteering, because when we started it all that time ago, unfortunately, the kind of volunteering base pretty much reflected where the game was at the time, and it was predominantly, old white men who were the volunteers, myself included. So it kind of, fortunately, the game has progressed massively in the last 15, 20 years, and now is embraced by a much wider community of people. And certainly on the gender side, what's absolutely transformed the game, and to be honest, has probably given it the sustainability to carry on as a sport is the introduction of girls and women into cricket. And so it's really important that they're all reflected in the volunteering community. And we've, I think, over the time we've been doing the program, we've seen gradually the change in the nature of participants who come onto the program. So we're now reflecting, that growth in cricket. And we were always keen right from the start to try and embrace it. So we felt we were kind of there at the start, and then we're able to ride the wave. And just to kind of say that the program is run by people who offer up their time to manage the program, and then we have some paid volunteers that we're, but in the main, it's people who are kind of devoting their time to help make the program as good and as slick as possible. So what is it? What is the program? Well, it comprises 4 face-to-face modules and 3 online workshops that are all aimed at kind of slightly different topics. So the purpose of it also was, as I said, the self-development and then the learning of the transferable skills, all of which, again, I say, are actually embedded in the modules. And the idea is it's taken all, like I said, those characteristics of life skills from the game. And it's to try and put that together into an enjoyable environment, which we work really hard at doing. And cricket as a sport is it's a social game. It's a really enjoyable game because it's very much about teamwork, but it's also about you as an individual, how you can contribute, and that makes it very unusual. There probably only 1 or 2 other sports where an individual can have such an influence on a sport, but the team as a whole can also make that impact. So I think probably baseball's about the only other one I can think of offhand where you'd have an individual that could win a game on their own. Even there, it's not quite as clear cut as in cricket. So the enjoyability part is really important, and this is where we talk about joining a community, being part of a community, because it's a community of people who have a shared enthusiasm for volunteering. So it's kind of, you meet someone from your tribe, as it were. And we try and arrange some additional online modules, so on topics that are tangential to the game, and things like I've just mentioned there about biodiversity, and that being part of the kind of wider impact that the game has. And I'll talk a little bit about that because we've embedded that into the groundskeeping module. So I'll kind of explain that a bit more. So it's one topic that I'm particularly interested in, and how cricket makes itself sustainable and actually becomes, environmentally a contributor rather than a detractor, if you like. So I'll talk about the training and the modules, and then look at the timings that we're going to run them in. So as I said, there are 4 face-to-face, and the first one is what we call activator coaching module. So it's kind of pitched at the starter, your first step into coaching, and it would kind of align with the coach support worker, and where that fits is very much into the all-stars or the junior section of a club. So that's where they're looking for young people to be able to coach 5 to 8 year olds, then in the dynamos, sort of 9 to 12 year olds. And it's really important because young people, tutoring other young people has a far greater impact than, experienced coaches who've been around a long time, done it for a long time. You don't perhaps have that kind of same, if you like, empathy with a young person. And I've seen it for myself when, 14, 15-year-old is talking to a 7, 8-year-old, there's a much better connection. So you play a hugely important role, primarily because that age group, that's those 5 to 8-year-olds, certainly the 5-6-year-olds coming into the club, this will be their first time with organized training. You'll make them hopefully feel comfortable and start to give them the lifelong love of the game. So as somebody who's can play a role in making sure that the game itself continues for as long as possible, bringing new participants in is one of the key roles that you as a young leader can play. And then the young officials part is about how to manage games, and it'll be aimed at specifically junior cricket. So we're talking about the forms of the game that exist within junior cricket, like pairs cricket, continuous cricket, clock cricket, all the different sort of versions of the game that operate at junior level. So to give you the understanding of how to manage those in terms of scoring them, getting the participants into the right places, making sure that they adhering to the rules of that particular format. But then that will help you go into the next level, and we do give you some taster of kind of what it's like to step up to umpiring, which is now sort of different, where applying the laws of the game, but so it'll give you enough confidence to be able to run a traditional type of game of cricket, but at a junior level. Then there's the groundskeeping, as I said, and that's that we've aligned with the environmental awareness side. So we talk about the role of ground preparation, surface preparation, which is so important to us as a sport. Preparing great surfaces is what makes the game both an interesting one from the perspective of the different kinds of performance that you get from it, but also how, let's say, the impact that we have on the environment, because in order to prepare those sorts of wickets and the outfield and the rest, we do interfere in the way that perhaps the environment is not that happy with, if I put it like that. So it's finding our methods that we can most sympathetically do that, but also what we can contribute as the game. And we're blessed to be playing in big open spaces, big open green spaces, and they can help provide a lot of mitigation in terms of contributing positively to the environment. So things like biodiversity is certainly one area where the game can contribute. First aid is the other one, and that's if you like a societal life skill. It's something that society always needs, is people who can have the confidence to do that kind of first response, or take the first action in order to help out when there's a situation. So we give you the basics of that, and make you feel confident enough to be able to get involved and make a difference at that. Same with the fundraising now is where we move online, and the mental resilience is online, as well as the safeguarding awareness, which is a new one that we're going to run this year. But those three are again kind of integral to the whole of the program, if you like. So the fundraising is about, I'll talk a bit more about it, but it's essentially what keeps the program sustainable. But also we want you to be working in a wider context, in as much as being a positive, so a positive influence, if you like, on your wider community. So I'll just talk a bit more detail about that. I've talked about the mental resilience, and I'll say the safeguarding one is something we just felt it's the right time to introduce it, given kind of where society is in terms of the huge introduction of lots of young children into the game. So the course dates. We run 5 sessions, as it were, over the course of the summer, 2 of which are in the Easter holidays. So the 2 weeks of the Easter holidays, there'll be sessions running each week. And those will be the young cricket officials, the activator stroke coaching one, the first aid, and we'll run those over a full day. So that'll take those 3 modules, those 3 face-to-face modules, all in one day, and they'll be offered over over those 2 weeks in April. And then the next opportunity is in the May half term. So again, it'll run for the week, and where possible, we'll have 2 modules there, and the one will be the groundskeeping, because that's the time of year when you can actually get outdoors and start doing stuff. I've tried tutoring in April, but it doesn't work. It's far too cold, wet, and everything else. Fingers crossed it's going to dry up this year just a bit. So the groundskeeping one is there, but then we repeat the YCO and the activator modules and the first aid. So that'll be your other chance. And then in the first week or second week of the summer holidays, we do the whole thing again. So really, if you're away at Easter, you'll have a chance in May half term. If you're away in the May half term, you can do it at Easter. And if by some unlucky circumstances you can't do either, then there will be the mop-up in the Easter holidays. The idea is to try and do it as early as you can, because that gives you the chance to do your volunteering and the fundraising. And I'll talk about the volunteering side of it. I'm just going to do an absolute briefing, let you read these, but essentially this is what the content of the junior activator junior actor module is. It's about the what to and the how to. And the what to is the what to deliver. So as in what skills you're trying to deliver to the young people. It's doing the prep for that, getting yourself properly organized so that you can deliver a session where you've got a certain number of drills in it. The how to is this is where the life skills sit. So it's about the communication side of it. It's how you communicate effectively and in a way that's going to be empathetic and connect with the young people. So we give you those skills. The idea is we show you how to do that and how to make those connections with the young participants. And then it's also about that relationship building, about making it enjoyable, but also making it inclusive, okay? Because you're going to have children of very different abilities, and you then have to make sure that your session is as inclusive as possible. Okay, so it's like I said, it has many life skills, and remember, all these are transferable. So whatever you go on to do next, okay, and that's that's whether you go on to play professionally. Only a very few lucky people manage to do that. But when you go off into wider roles in wider life, so whether that's going into higher education, or going into vocational training, or even going straight into the job market, being able to lead and being able to communicate and being able to make things enjoyable, any project that you're managing or running, is going to be a brilliant skill that you can take with you. So we've always wanted the program to be a kind of stepping stone for young people to develop themselves. Similarly with the young cricket officials course, the officiating part, like I said, you learn some of the laws of the game, but you learn also about the roles and responsibilities that you, as somebody who's now managing a game, takes on, and how you communicate the signals and various things to somebody who might be scoring. So we also teach you how to score, and given most scoring now is done online or on a device, it's pretty counterintuitive. So it's a good module to get involved. The first aid, like I said, a brilliant societal skill to have, and something certainly within sport, the more people trained up on first aid, the better it is, because sport is. I'm not going to say it's dangerous, because it isn't. And in all the time I've played, and I still play now incredibly. I've probably witnessed like 2 or 3 things happen, and none of them were serious. It was just somebody turning an ankle, or getting unfortunately hit or something. I can count them on one hand. But it was great to have somebody there who could actually immediately take control of the situation and make a decision about what needed to happen next. So that's what this is about. And clearly now you've got CPRs that you can do, and using the AEDs, which are again very intuitive in the way that you use them, but we just kind of show you and make you feel confident about being able to use them. I've talked about the groundskeeping, so that's just a quick resume of what you do. You can see the picture there. It's actually looking at the equipment, in some cases being able to use some of it, and understand what its purpose is and how you as a player benefit from the surfaces that they're prepared. And understanding how they're prepared gives you the opportunity then to be able to read them. And when I say read them, most people try and read them and get it completely wrong, but it at least gives you an understanding of what the pitch is likely to do. Again, that if you then make a decision about batting or bowling, that can influence that, or the length of the game that you're playing, etc., and how long the pitch will last for. It's something most players don't have, so it's a very useful understanding to get. I do also like to put this in here. So all of those 4 modules, those face-to-face ones, have pathways that can take you on to do the next level, if you like, of training in them. So they're the next step up from the coaching would be coach support worker, and then onto a level 1 coaching qualification. So if you were interested in becoming a coach and becoming a full-time coach at some point, then this is a great stepping stone towards that. And all the county boards have offer these next level courses. So certainly once you've done the young leader program, once you turn 16, or when you're 15 going on 16, you can then sign up to do your level 1. Your coach support worker, and then onto your level 1. And similarly with the umpiring and scoring, again, there are loads of pathways now into what's changed in the game, certainly from when I first started, is that there are a myriad of opportunities now in sport, and certainly within cricket. If you think, right from data analysis to performance coaches to team event organizers to the marketing people, there are just so many more roles in sport. So this is an introduction, if you like, to the wider world of the game of cricket. So how do we fund the program? Okay, and this was important. When we started it, we always wanted it to be as accessible as possible to everybody. Again, we looked at how do we set it up in a way that's financially accessible for as many people as possible, without completely having to compromise what we offered. So we looked at and initially for the first couple of years we did get some outside sponsorship to run it, and even then we thought, well, we don't want to be spending all our time running around looking for funding for something, because that'll just compromise. We're all volunteers doing this. We compromise our time. We'd rather spend our time making the program as good as possible. So we came up with this idea of splitting it into a 50-50 arrangement. There's a fee to join it, which is £75. And then there's a fee, then in order to complete the cost from our side, we ask you to fundraise the next 70. But we ask you to do that as part of a wider fundraising effort, because we always wanted it to be, again, something that was benefit for wider society, not just for us, but for some a cause, and that cause you can choose. That's entirely your choice on where you go for that. We have 2 charities that we support, which are Cardiac Risk in the Young and the Ruth Strauss Foundation, both of which make sense, obviously, because they're very ingrained into youth sport. And certainly Cardiac Risk in the Young does fantastic work doing doing screening of young people to try and detect any problems they might have with their hearts. So it's a great charity to support, and over the years we've young leaders have raised a lot of money for them. Similarly for the Ruth Strauss Foundation, but we say it's a cause of your choice. So it could be a charity that's close to your heart, something specific to your family, or and also it could be a project that's being run at the club. So some clubs, ask you to fundraise for a particular project that they're doing. So you give us the first 70, and then everything else goes to the charity. And we absolutely recommend you do it as a group. Okay, so there, of course, are people who are skilled at doing fundraising on their own, but in the main, it's a much better idea to do it as a group. And when we do the fundraising module, we give you the tactics and the right sort of tools to be able to fundraise together and to do it as a project. That project, doing that fundraising again, has all those life skills in there. It's about organizing an event. It's about communicating that event. It's then about running it on the day. And it's about working as a team, within a group to be able to make sure that everybody's kind of doing their role. And it also generates a great sense of self-fulfillment when you've done the fundraising and you've raised money for your cause. And they're just some examples of, and I'm always honestly completely amazed at the different sorts of ideas that young people come up with in order to do their fundraising. It's everything from organizing a President's Day at the club, which is quite a popular one, where they'll take over the President's Day and run it, and the money goes to the cause, as I said, of their choice. Through to running single wicket competitions, running an IPL type event that one club did and raised a lot of money from it, through to running bingo nights and all kinds of different things, and the different causes. So the two young girls there, I'm not sure how they came across it, but it was a charity in Kenya that was specifically for young girls that they felt a connection with. So they raised money for that particular charity, and they did it with catering events and doing all kinds of different things, and managed to raise a really good amount of money for the charity, which, as you can imagine, was very very happy with it. So what do we expect from you, and what should you expect from us? These are the two things. So first and foremost, we absolutely want you to get the best out of the program, and we want you to enjoy it. We want you to go away feeling that this was great. I could learn all these skills and I could do it in an environment that I enjoy, which is playing cricket. And it's all about me understanding the game better. It also helps you develop as a player, because it gives you insights into the game that you probably weren't aware of, and kind of everything that sits around the game. So that's kind of what we promise to deliver you, and we then ask you to commit to obviously doing the fundraising, doing all the modules, and doing 20 hours of volunteering. Okay, that minimum. You can do as many as you like, and generally, because we collect the data, I think the average is about 40, somewhere around 40 hours that most young people do, which is outstanding, and it's hopefully means they invested in the program and they feel that they're getting something from it. There are lots of opportunities at any club to volunteer, from say the junior coaching through to match managing junior teams, through to helping out with the groundskeeping in one way or another, helping out in the clubhouse, all kinds of things. I'll talk to you about the parents about what they can do to help on that side of things. And then we just ask you to commit to the program by signing a pledge, and the pledge is essentially a little support structure for the young person. So we ask the parents to sign it, the young person, and whoever's providing the volunteering opportunities. And that way, the young person knows somebody who's got their back in terms of getting them to the modules, getting them maybe giving them a bit of a motivation, and just keeping kind of on their side, saying, keeping an eye on where they are up to with the modules and that kind of thing. So yeah, just a little support structure that makes it a little bit more enjoyable. And this is if you want to come onto the program, then this is what we ask you to do. Clearly, you're doing the Enthuse session tonight, so that gives you a full understanding of what the program is about, and kind of sort of what you can expect from it. Sign the pledge when you sign up, and then you'll go on the website, complete the registration form. You can pay from the registration form as it is at the moment, and then you'll be loaded up onto Spond, which is the way that we're going to communicate. And I just want to so quickly, this role of the club coordinator. This is something we'd like to ask parents to get involved with, or a parent, and it's not to try and burden you with anything other than just being a point person at the club that we can communicate with, the club can communicate with, and any of the young leaders on the program can have somebody that they can speak to about the volunteering hours. So it would just be purely, as I say, a point of contact, and just make sure that the club are aware that this program's happening at their club, and that they need to think about, when they're volunteering, there's volunteering that needs doing, that they're these young leaders who've kind of been given the skills to do it and to get involved. So if you'd like to do that, please just drop me an email. We really appreciate it. It just makes such a difference for the young people on the program, and from our perspective, just having that point of contact. And say the volunteering opportunities are, as long as they're cricket related, they're club, school, or in the community, depending on what you feel most comfortable with. They're just some comments from last year's parents, and you'll see there the kind of theme of them all is the bit about how the young people changed from when they started it to when they finished, and what they got out of it as individuals. We say over the years we've tried to refine it and make it as enjoyable as possible, and hopefully that's reflected in the comment. So that is a kind of whistle-stop tour through the Young Leaders in Cricket program. If you've got any questions, please fire them at me. I'm happy to answer them. I'll just go back to this one. This tends to be the one we ask questions the most about. So those are the course dates. But if you've got any other questions you'd like to ask about the program, about your club or where you are, I know that there's a group of you who've come from Catford Ciphers, and that would be brilliant, because if you've got a decent group of young people on the program at once, for the volunteering and for the fundraising, it just makes things that much easier. And if there was one of those parents who was happy to be the point of contact, then that'd be great. But sorry, the one thing I didn't maybe cover, I missed off here, was that we use Spond as our the app that we communicate with you on. Sorry, the slides managed to drop out. So we load you up onto Spond, and that's where you can keep an eye on the progress. We advertise all the modules on there. You can book onto the modules there, and then it gives you kind of full transparency of exactly what's going on, when, how the young people are progressing, and the rest of it. So that's, as I say, pretty much all the high-level detail, if you like, on the program. But if you do have any specific questions you want to ask them now, or please email me, and I'm very happy to answer them then. I can unmute you and you can ask them face-to-face if you like. Any questions? Or just stick them in the chat. Okay. Well, thank you all very much for joining. Oh, sorry, there's something in the Q&A. Let's check. So, yeah, will you be sending a presentation? Yes, indeed, I will do that, Donna. I'll make sure that you get a copy of it. It's recorded, so you can have a look. And yeah, sure. If you want to, deep dive into any other stuff, just give me a shout, and I'm happy to answer that. Right, thanks everyone. Hopefully see you all on the program.